And we are off.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hey everybody, so good to have you. It'd be nice to see you in person. We are doing a comedy show in June that we'll remind you about. We'd love to see you in person. Obviously, I'm Brandon with the Goldberg team. We helped you with your home purchase.
I'm
Uh,
not doing a comedy show. I'm not part of the comedy show.
yeah,
just,
that is
just to clarify.
promise that, promise that. But yeah, I'm just gonna kind of get right into it because we're only gonna take up 30 minutes of your time. Tim Yates here. He's the founder of Legal Docs for Less. He specializes in estate planning, and he's just here to explain revocable living trusts for everybody. Um, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to join us. But also, Tim, thank you for your time to help our clients. I'm just gonna kind of like we chatted about. I'm just gonna go through some questions that I'm guessing most everybody has. So if anybody has any additional questions or anything, obviously feel free to add them to the chat. But yeah, thanks, Tim.
Yeah. Hey, Brent, it's a pleasure to be here, my friend. As I told you, I love doing these short informational webinars, give people the information they need so they can make informed decisions for themselves and their families. And I look forward to you asking me some good questions.
Cool. Cool. Well, again, we're going to move quickly just to be respectful of everybody's time. But if anybody's got questions, Tim could always connect with you afterward. Um, but yeah, I guess before we get started, real quick, Tim, do you want to just let everybody know a little bit about Legal Docs for Less?
Yeah, absolutely. We're a family run firm. My disclaimer is I'm not here to give you any legal or tax advice. I'm merely here to give you information about estate planning. Our firm was founded many years ago by my wife, Carrie, who's the very bottom picture. She's our lead attorney. And we just have a wonderful staff of attorneys. I'm the only non-attorney on the team, but I am a registered and bonded LDA, and my specialty is estate planning. And again, I absolutely love what I do. I also like to let people know we're a full service firm also. So at any time, if I work with you on your estate planning, and if you ever need legal advice or need legal representation in a lot of areas of the law, whether it's family law, real estate law, business law, HOA law, those things, we're one phone call away. You call me and I'll connect you with the right people on our team. And it's something that I love doing. And again, I'm just happy to be here tonight.
Cool, man. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and I guess maybe if you could just kind of move right into kind of the important reasons why people should have an estate plan.
Absolutely. So I'll keep it really simple here. There's more than six reasons, but here are the top six. Okay. Number one is to avoid probate. I'm sure we're going to be talking more about that in a little bit. Obviously, reducing your estate taxes is something that we all want to do. Protecting your beneficiaries, your loved ones, and protecting your assets, the things that you've worked so hard for. Um, Another thing a lot of people don't think about is protecting your health with healthcare directives. When COVID hit, Brandon, we had a lot of people that didn't have their healthcare directives in place, and it was a real difficult situation for millions of families, really. So having your healthcare directives in place is important, and then also protecting your privacy is another positive component of having this in place.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the first things you mentioned was probate. Can you just kind of tell everybody what probate really means in terms of like cost, the process, and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So probate is defined as the court ordered and supervised process of identifying and gathering the assets of a deceased person, then paying out their debts, liabilities, and taxes, and then kind of whatever's left over, handing the crumbs over to the family members. And so the problem with the process is number one, it can cost tens of thousands of dollars, and number two, it can take months or even years to go through. So it's just something you don't want to leave planet Earth with a mess. You don't want to leave your family having to deal with that. It's just not it's not a responsible thing to do. And the good news about it, though, is that you can save your family so much time and heartache and money if you just put together an estate plan.
All right, perfect. Sorry, one sec. Just some people asking for meeting ID numbers and stuff, so send it over their way in the meantime. One sec here.
No worries. Yeah, I can do some comedy if you want. You mentioned a comedy club. I got some jokes. I could.
No need for that. Although people might enjoy it. Another thing that I wanted you to talk about is also wills, right? People preparing a will. Can you
Yeah.
explain kind of the difference between wills and trusts?
It's probably the number one question that I get asked is, Tim, do I need a trust or do I need a will? And the answer is, if you live here in California, you need both. A will's not going to protect your assets from probate, a trust will, and there's a lot of components to that. So you really need both. Unfortunately, I've seen it happen too often where, a family member says, oh, mom and dad have a will, or grandma and grandpa have a will, and, they own some property, and, oh, we're fine, they have a will, only to realize that that will didn't protect those assets from probate, and they had to go through the probate process. So it's important to understand that they need both. And so when we prepare what we call a revocable living trust, we make sure that the trust and the will are included in that package, so there's nothing left out purposely or accidentally. And I always want to let people know, if you have a family member or a friend and they say, I have a will, please just follow up and ask them, hey, do you also have a trust? Because if they don't, they need that. They need both.
Gotcha, gotcha. And you mentioned revocable trusts. Are there different kinds of trusts that everybody should know about?
Keeping it simple. We'll just talk about revocable and irrevocable. Revocable trusts are what we specialize in creating, and it's what 99.9% of the population needs. Irrevocable trusts are really designed for the uber wealthy, and designed for people that maybe want to give up control of their assets to a third party. We see a lot of politicians that sit maybe on the House Ways and Means Committee or foreign intelligence committees and things like that, that they need to have a real buffer between them and their assets for various reasons. But a revocable living trust is what everybody really, really needs. And that's, again, what we specialize in. And it allows you to make changes while still maintaining complete control of your assets.
Gotcha, gotcha. And just kind of digging a little deeper into that, can you kind of explain what a revocable living trust means?
Yeah, it means just what it is. It means it's revocable. You can cancel it, you can make changes to it, and it's something that, we let our clients know that we're going to expect you to make changes to it. It's called a living trust for a reason. It's a living, breathing document side by side with you while you're still alive. So as changes in your life occur, you're going to want to make changes reflective in those documents.
Okay, so then, for example, like what kind of changes, for example, would lead to somebody making a change in their trust?
Probably the number one thing is when, working with a professional like you, Brandon, and you help people, buy real estate. When people are buying and selling real estate, we want to make sure that's reflective in those documents. Sometimes people, when they're married, they don't have any children yet, then they have children, or they have children under the age of 18, and then their children turn 18. And, so things like that, relationship changes, asset changes, things like that. So it's really important to ensure that those things are reflective in your documents when you're still alive.
Yeah. And all these things kind of going into trust, obviously the main reason I invited pretty much everyone here is because they own real estate. And I think it's incredibly important that if people have real estate, they have a trust. Do most people who own real estate put it in a trust?
That's what we talk about that all the time. That's why our court system, there's 58 counties in California, and pretty much every county is backlogged with probate cases. And the reason why, it's statistically, according to, various county recorder offices, about 12.7% of homeowners in California have their homes in a trust. So if I was in real estate, for example, and I had, if I had 100 people in my database that I've sold homes to, if I looked at that number, 87 out of that 100 don't have their homes in a trust. So it's a very, very low number. People have, theories why that is. My theory, it's two things. It's the cost, and it's the lack of education and understanding. And those were two of the hallmarks, foundational pieces of our firm, of why we created our firm and why we're doing what we're doing today.
Okay. And then in putting together a revocable trust for people, what's included in that? What comes with the revocable trust?
Yeah, so this is an important thing. So I have a slide here. Hopefully everybody can see and understand that these are the documents that are included when you purchase, when you work with us. Now, you're going to hear different terms. You're going to hear a trust. You're going to hear an estate plan. You're going to hear revocable. You're going to hear these things like that. Just understand that what you're getting and really what everyone needs is what, again, is called a revocable living trust. And it includes your trust. It includes your will, your certification of trust, your nomination of guardian if you have children under the age of 18. I mentioned healthcare directives and why those are super important to have. Your durable power of attorney, another super important thing to have. HIPAA waivers, again, giving access to your medical records to make informed medical decisions on your behalf if you're not able to. And then we create what we call the quitclaim deeds to transfer your real estate holdings into the trust. We put primary down is because if you have a primary home, that's obviously going into the trust. And if you have investment properties or secondary homes and stuff like that, we want to make sure all of your properties are put into the trust, because I've seen it happen too many times too, Brandon, where they did everything right. They put their primary home into the trust and then they bought a fourplex or they bought another investment property and they didn't move that into, they didn't take that step of contacting the right people like us to do that for them, and it was left out and went into probate. So it's unfortunate. So you just got to make sure you understand it's a vital step to do.
Right. And I know obviously this is a little complicated of a process. That's why we're having this in general. But is it possible for somebody to prepare their own living trust?
Yeah, absolutely. I let people know this too. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, Brandon, where people had one option. You had to go to that expensive attorney's office down the street and spend whatever they were charging, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, $10,000, and that was it. Then with comes the internet. Unfortunately, now the pendulum swung way to the opposite side, where people can quote unquote get their estate plan done for hundreds of dollars. But the problem that we're seeing right now is that a lot of times they're incomplete documents. It doesn't include the documents they need. Then they're filling them out improperly, and then they're coming to me saying, "Hey, Tim, I want to hire you to review the paperwork that I've done." And then it ends up costing them twice as much, where they just would have came to us to begin with. We could ensure that things were done properly with them side by side from the get-go. And it's one of those things too. Look, I'm glad there's that option out there, because I'd rather have someone do it that way and at least do something than not do anything at all. So I'm happy that there's options for people out there. But I also tell people just buyer beware, because there's a lot of scams out there, and a lot of times the legal forms that they're getting from some of these web-based companies might not be applicable to even the state that they're in, or it might be missing important components to that. So just be aware of that. But yeah, it's absolutely an option for somebody if they want to go that route.
Yeah. And I know there's kind of there was a lot that comes with the revocable trust that you were mentioning earlier. How long does it take for someone to prepare all of this?
Well, so when someone hires us, from the moment we engage with them, from that initial interaction, which is, again, our engagement is done very limitedly because we are able to do that. Our entire team, everyone works from home offices. We don't have big fancy offices that we're passing on those costs on to our clients. We utilize a lot of technology, so we make it very streamlined for people to work with us to get this process done. So for us, when we engage with the client, from the moment that they pay their invoice and we send them the questionnaire, we can have it done usually within 7 to 10 business days. So we get it done very fast, very efficiently, working with our clients. We've had situations where clients and family members have called us, prior to going into an emergency surgery, wanting to know if we could get something done, same day or 24-hour, 48-hour turnaround time. And we can get things done really quickly. It just depends on how quickly they can do it on their end. But at the same time, when I see people that are doing it themselves, I see people that it could take a long time because it can be very complex, confusing. So if you want it done right and efficiently, we'll take care of you in 7 to 10 days. If you don't, that's okay. It's your options.
Right. Like I mentioned earlier, pretty much everybody that's here, and I shouldn't even say pretty much everyone that's here, owns property. But is that the only reason to have a living trust, or do people need to own property or have a lot of money to need a trust?
No, one of the reasons why, I mean, here's first and foremost, if you do own any real estate, you absolutely need to get this done. Because if you don't, you're giving up your property, everything you worked hard for, to the state of California. Why would you do that? Don't put your family into that nightmare of a mess, okay? So if you don't have a lot of assets, now years ago when it was costing, thousands and thousands of dollars to do it, if you didn't have any assets, then maybe it didn't make sense. But I think when people see what our, how we work deals with partners like you, Brandon, and when they see what our costs can be for them, it makes perfect sense to do it. So if they don't own a home at the time we work with them, we still create their trust in a way where if they work with you 6 months down the road or a year down the road and you get them into that perfect real estate situation, all they have to do is call me up after that deal is closed and we'll put the quitclaim deed together and put the property into their trust. So it's already included in that. So they don't have to, no additional costs is what I'm saying on that. The other thing, though, is the reason why people should still do this, even if they don't own any real estate, is, again, all the things that I talked about. You want to have your healthcare directives in place. If, God forbid, you're in an accident, you're incapacitated, you're in a hospital, you want people to understand what your wishes are. So, again, if, God forbid, something happens, you don't want to leave them with just a bunch of stuff. If you have things that are important to you, you may have a ring or a piece of jewelry, something that's really important to you that means something, and you wanted that piece of that property to go to a specific person in your family. If it's not written down, nobody's going to know, and then you're going to leave. You could possibly leave your family in a fight. I have seen, Brandon, over the years, quote unquote, good close families get into nasty fights where everybody starts to lawyer up. Everybody wants to hire lawyers now because, well, mom and dad said I get this, and grandpa said I get that, and it's just a horrible situation. So just don't leave your family with a mess. Again, it doesn't matter if you have, $200 to your name or $2 million to your name. It's important to have these things in place. And I encourage people to understand to do that, because I worked with people years ago, Brandon, that didn't have much net worth. I still put together their estate plan, but they built on top of that estate plan. They added assets into that estate plan. They worked hand in hand with their tax professional that can help guide them and realize, should I transfer these assets into my trust or should I not? Would it be a tax advantage if I do that? Should I take my life insurance policies? Should I move that into the trust? Should I keep that separate? So you can do all these things working with your tax professional as long as you have an estate plan done. If you don't have this done, you can't do anything.
Yeah, I want to jump over. Wendy had asked if property outside of the United States could be included.
Yeah, that's here's what we normally do when you have property. So estate planning is state specific. Okay, so let's talk state specific first. Okay, what happens is we work with people that their primary residence is in California. Okay, so we're going to put together their estate plan for California. Now, if they own property outside of California, we're going to still mention that property in their estate plan. And let's say they own property in Arizona, for example. Well, I can't do the quitclaim deed for Arizona to put in their property, but what I can do is give them the link for them to do it online. And it's a pretty easy process. So I can help them do that. Most states allow homeowners to do their own quitclaim deeds in a process that can move it into that because it's a licensing component. So we want to make sure it's all put in there. But I do recommend a lot of times if you're not sure where you're going to live, you can have multiple trusts, just like LLCs, for example. I form limited liability companies for a lot of clients, and some people have limited liability companies for every separate business entity they have. They could have 10, 15, 20 LLCs going, and so it's the same thing with a trust. You can do that. When it comes to property out of country, again, it's an enforceability component. What we would do is we would mention that you have ownership in that property in that country. It's going to be mentioned in your documents, but from the standpoint of this, it's not going to protect that property from whatever that country's laws are. If you passed away living here in America and California, there's going to be tax consequences and things like that. So I always say, if you own property out of country, just be aware of the tax components that might happen. So at least you let your family know, hey, when I pass away, I got my 2 properties in California and my 1 in Arizona all taken care of here. Shouldn't be any problems. But I do have 1 in Mexico, and that one is going to require you to call this person or this number, and it just keeps it nice and sequenced. So even in the documents that we create, we leave some blank page areas for people to write in notes. and things that they can just have direction for their loved ones. So when they come across that document, when they open it up, they're going to have it nice and organized for their family.
Okay, cool. And then Tim, I think you had might have mentioned the changes earlier, but Gideon was asking if there's any costs to make those changes or updates, and if so, what that looks like.
Yeah, great question. So anytime someone wants us to add another property into their trust, I usually charge $50. What I'll do is I'll tell people this. If you get a chance to work with me, you're going to see our costs are like no other. We have a unique business model that works very well for us. So our costs working with, again, like professionals like Brandon are a lot lower than you're going to find. And it's on purpose. But the same thing is that when you need changes to it, the first question people ask me is, Tim, well, I got this great deal up front. Are you going to stick it to me in the back end now when I come to you for changes? And I say, absolutely. No, I'm not. So the changes, like I said, I just did this week, I did 3 changes in the last 2 days for clients that one was done in 2017, one was done in 2019 and 2021. And they consisted of change, one person, their children turned the age of 18. Another one, they wanted to change out their the guardians and some other things like that. So we're talking, $25, $50, $99. So it's going to be very, very minimal, but it does depend on what changes you're asking me. If you're asking me to change out like the whole thing, it's going to be a little more expensive, but I promise you that you're going to come back to us and you're not going to be gouged, and your changes are going to be very, very minimal.
Perfect. And you mentioned, sorry, earlier you were saying things about like putting like something sentimental like a ring or something. Other than somebody's home, what other assets can be put into a trust?
Yeah, great question. Any asset you have, I mean, if you have stocks, bonds, bank accounts, life insurance policies, boats, RVs, cars, all of those things can be transferred into the trust. What I tell people is this, is when we create your trust, we're not calling your bank. We're not calling your Roth IRA and talking to your people with your bank accounts and transferring that stuff in. We create the vessel for you. What I say is, before you transfer any other asset, now we're going to automatically from the get-go transfer your real estate holdings into your trust at the beginning. But if you decide to transfer other assets, I would say talk to your tax professional first. Let him or her know you now have a living trust. Are there any assets that you should look at transferring into your trust? I can just share with you personally, my wife Carrie and I, and this is what we do for a living. The only assets that we've actually transferred into our trust is our real estate and land holdings. We have stocks, bonds, we have bank accounts, we have other things like that. We have life insurance policies. I haven't called those institutions up and had them transferred into there, only because there hasn't been, at least for us, a tax advantage to doing that. But if my accountant called me tomorrow and said, hey, Tim, I'm going to recommend you and Carrie transfer your life insurance policy into the trust now because you're going to save on I'm going to call up my life insurance policy, and no different if I was going to call my bank up and I would let them know, this is Tim Yates. I have a life insurance policy with you. Here's my policy number. I want to name my living trust now as the beneficiary of this account. And they're going to say something like, okay, send us a certification of your trust. It's a paper that we create in your document. I send that to them. They'll send me some papers to fill out and sign. I just attach to everything and off we go. So it's the same thing. You can make decisions based on what's best for you from a tax perspective of what assets to transfer in and out. But what I also tell people is this, is if you aren't transferring any assets into your trust for various reasons right now, also it's a good time for you to make sure that you have the right beneficiaries listed on those accounts. So if God forbid something did happen to you, right now for my life insurance policy, my wife and children are named as the beneficiaries. So if something happened and it's not pulled into my trust, it's still going to be a payout directly to them. If they were under the age of 18, that might be a reason why I would want my life insurance policy moved into the trust, because technically my children could be paid out before they turn the age of 18, if that was important to your family. But if not, then they have to wait till they're at the age of 18. But again, these are things that you're going to want to talk to your tax professional about. And you can do it over time. It doesn't all have to be done at once. You can move things in or out as you go. And that's the beauty of this document.
Perfect. And I think you pretty much just answered this question. I know some people I sent my link, so I don't know who sent this question. It's got my name on it. But they were just asking if they have to include life insurance in the trust because it's pretty straightforward as far as the beneficiaries go.
Yeah, no, they don't have to at all. Nope.
Gotcha.
And like I said,
Gotcha.
I haven't either. I haven't made that phone call because there's really no reason for me to make that phone call. My children are grown anyways, but they're already set up. I already have them set up the way I want them set up if I kick the bucket tomorrow. So yeah.
Okay. And while we're kind of on this darker note, what does happen when the trusters pass away?
It's a great question. So what would happen is when the final trustor trustee passes away. So if you have a husband and wife, for example, a married couple, one passes away, the other one's still in charge of everything, vice versa, everybody's still in charge. When they both pass away, or if you're just an individual single person, you pass away, whoever you named as your successor trustee and executor, what they're going to need to do is they're going to need to, contact a probate attorney and say, this is what happened. I was named as the successor trustee and the executor of a living trust. What do I do next? And so basically it's called the administering of the trust. So they're just going to want to get the advice to make sure everything is followed appropriately. Their job is just to make sure that the wishes that were granted upon them and the power that was given to them by the initial trustor or trustees is now just officially followed through with. And I do tell people, if you're named as the successor trustee and executor, it can be a daunting task, but it's an important role to take on, and it's something that those people entrusted you enough to do that, so you need to take it seriously and make sure it's done properly.
Perfect. Tim, there before I kind of get into the last couple of questions I had, Gideon had also asked if you could just explain a little more about the estate tax benefits. Could you elaborate on that a bit?
I can't, because I'm not a tax professional. I can just tell you that talk to your tax professional about the benefits that you can receive by having an estate plan. And it's something that, again, it can be very specific based on the time that you get your trust done, the location, the county, your financial situation, those things like that. But it's definitely something that, again, direct that to your tax professional.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I should have known that before I even asked you. Gideon, what I'll do, I do have some tax professionals I work with closely. I'll reach out and see if they can give a quick snippet about that if you don't already have somebody to go to. And I made a note to myself about that, so I'll reach out and ask. No, yours. I don't want to answer for you, Tim, but he was just asking if an estate plan requires more than one property. You don't even have to have one property.
Exactly. Exactly. We design it where you're ready to move. If you start off with us with no properties and you end up with 10 properties, we're ready to keep building on top of it for you. And like I said, for us to add a property into your existing trust that we did for you, it's $50.
Yeah. On that note, I think probably a question that everybody wants to know is how much does it cost to get a revocable trust?
Yeah. So, and again, I always tell people, look, don't take my word for it. Call around if you want to call, but make sure you're calling specifically estate planning law firms and ask them, how much will you charge for a revocable living trust? And they'll say, well, it depends on this, this, and this. But just to be to the chase, the average cost is about $2,500 in California. You can find them $1,200 up to $8,000 in the Bay Area. It just runs the gamut. There's no set pricing on it, but on average, it's about $2,500. The cool thing about this, because I want to be respectful of everyone's time as well, because we're almost finishing up here. Basically, because of our relationship with you, Brandon, as you know, we don't charge $2,500. The average cost for us working with your clients is about $795, and that includes their primary residence. If they owned additional property, let's say they owned primary home and investment property, it would be $795 plus $50. And so, and we try to keep this pricing for as long as we can based on, our workload and where we're at with things right now. So anybody that attended tonight, Brandon, I'm going to send them an email with just a recap so they have the information. They can, marinate over it. Also, I want to let you guys know too, if you have family or friends and, people that, might want this, I'll be more than happy to honor this price and cost for them. If you give them my information, make sure you let them know where it's coming from, because we don't market, we don't advertise, we don't Yelp, as Brandon knows. The only time my phone rings, it's a direct referral from a client of ours. Could be 10 years ago, it could be 2 days ago, and working directly with very select professionals like Brandon. We're able to save a ton of costs because we don't have fancy offices and we don't spend a bunch of money on marketing. We completely pass those costs on so we can offer these kind of promos and these opportunities for people. So again, I'd be honored to work with anybody that wants to work with us, and we'll get to know each other really well.
Hey, Tim,
Yes.
Wendy had a good question. How does it actually, oh, my lighting kind of got weird there for a sec. How does it work when if there are changes needed? Like, let's say Wendy buys another property. Is a new trust document created when those changes or updates happen, or the updates like amendments to the original trust, or how's that look?
Yeah, it depends on what it is. We create, like I said, it would be, like I said, it could be a restatement of an existing trust, an amendment of a trust. Just think of an amendment. Most of the time it's going to be an amendment. An example is, I'll give you for example, I had a husband and wife. They wanted to change out the guardians of for their children. They're still young. They decided to change out their guardians for both of them. So the guardianship component is in the will section of the husband and the wife. They can each name separate guardians if they wanted to. They can have these areas in place within their will. So what I did is, I just so you know, I'll be very, very transparent. I charged $80. I changed both will components to reflect the new guardianship in both sections. And so all I had to do, and it was 4 pages long, 2 for the husband, 2 for the wife, with a notary page. It's an amendment to their existing trust. I sent it to them. They get that notarized sign, and then they just attach it to their existing trust documents.
Gotcha. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
If anybody is interested in getting a revocable trust, like for example, Gideon asked if you or your company acts as representatives in presenting their interest in the trust. How do they begin the process, and what's that look like?
Yeah, so basically what's going to happen is when we finish up here tonight or tomorrow, I'll send everybody out an email with just a recap of kind of what we covered, what the offer that we're offering them is in front of them, so they have that. And then the process is, if someone says, you know what, Tim, let's do this. It's a 2-step process. It's super simple. The first step is I would send you an invoice and our retainer for the $795 if you only have one property. If you have an additional property, then it's $795 plus 50. Okay. Then I send you the invoice. Once the invoice is paid, it triggers our system to send you out a questionnaire to fill out. You, as a single person or a husband and wife or married couple, can sit side by side, fill out the questionnaire online. It normally takes a couple, 15 to 20 minutes to fill out. You're mainly writing down the names of people that you want to put in the positions of authority upon your passing, when both of you pass away. It's when one of you is still there, you still control everything. It's always when both of you leave planet Earth, who are the people that you name through that document. Once we get the questionnaire back, again, we're going to do what we do on our side, and we're going to send you electronically your entire estate plan within 7 to 10 business days, that you will then have instructions on how to review it. And I give you very specific how to review it, make sure everything is accurate based on the questionnaire that you sent us, because we're creating this based on the answer to your questions, okay? Make sure everything looks correct. Tim looks great. I send you one more email that has the directions to print everything, to get it notarized, and how to record your deed. So we walk with you every step of the way. I let people know, if you do this with us, you're getting me the entire way. I'm not going to pass you on to anybody else. My job is to take you from beginning to end, and just to make sure that you're comfortable with the process. But it's really simple. Again, I send you an email with the invoice, a questionnaire comes after that, and then we're good to go.
Awesome, Tim. I appreciate it. This has been really great. I even learned a couple things. I just want to make sure, just so that everybody that did take their time to come learn from this, if they wanted to work with you, how do they make sure that they get the special pricing for being a past client of ours?
Yeah, so perfect. So a couple of things. I think, Brandon, you and I will work together. What I'll do is I'm going to send out that email, and you'll be copied on it so people can have that. So it'll list the pricing on it here. So I'll let them know you're getting this for this price. And it's basically, in this 90-day window here. Anything else that, I'm open to, making sure, because obviously, Brandon, this is something that, again, is for you and your clients specifically. And I want to make sure everybody's, taken good care of. So we'll make sure that we work in hand. We've got the list of everyone that registered. And again, like I said, if you registered tonight and you have a family member that doesn't have this, I would be more than honored to extend this offer to your family member, even if they didn't register here for tonight. And I do hope, Brandon, you and I can do another one of these. I think these are really important, and I know you have a lot of wonderful clients that would probably need this information. So hopefully you'll invite me back for another one.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And Tim, I know you're going to be sending up that follow-up email. I'm assuming that'll have all your contact info. So if anybody has questions that we didn't get answered tonight, they could reach out or schedule a quick call with you.
Yep, absolutely. They'll have all my contact information. So at any time, they all can get a free consultation as well. So they can call me anytime with questions. And again, I just want them to have everything they need so they can make an informed decision.
Awesome, Tim. Well, I appreciate it. I'll let you get back to your night. I appreciate you taking some time with us in the evening here. And thanks everybody for joining. It's good to see you once in a while. We'll be reaching out to see you in person in June.
Awesome. I appreciate you, Brandon. Thank you so much, sir. And I look forward to hopefully talking to some of you after this, and we'll have a wonderful night.
All right. Appreciate you, Tim. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Bye.